In this video, we are going to talk about ICP, some of its recent price action, the important support and resistance areas, and where we can expect the price of ICP to go in the next few days and weeks. So we'll look at the weekly chart first, and what we can see right here is that ICP has been in a very clear downtrend for a few years now. Since late 2023, ICP is very clearly in between these two trend lines that are connecting the highs and lows. More recently, we see that ICP has had a bit of a local uptrend in recent months, since about February. This is pretty small still, and it is not a trend reversal in the long term, but it is a more optimistic sign for ICP. Just in the last couple of months, we've seen ICP get a very significant rally, actually a rally of over 50% in just a week back at the beginning of the month. Since then, ICP went down a lot, but it is still holding above this recent low, so the local uptrend is still holding pretty strongly. In previous videos about ICP, I have talked about it needing to hit the lower part of this channel, hitting the trend line again to get a very significant sustainable rally. But right now, the trend line is at below $1. It is at about $0.6 actually, so there is a very long way to go down to the trend line. So this is not the most relevant area for us to look at right now. Right now, ICP is fighting this resistance area that used to be support twice in the past, back in December and October of 2025. We've seen ICP get support from this area of about $2.9 to $3. This makes sense because $3 is also a round number, so it is also a psychological area of support and resistance. So with ICP being close to that area right now at around $2.7, it is very close to this resistance area. It did manage to get above it a couple of weeks ago, but as you can see, it also behaved as a resistance back in March as well. So this is a pretty strong area of support and resistance recently in the last year or so for ICP. So we can expect ICP to, at the very least, struggle with that area again. If it does get rejected off of it and we see it continuing to drop and it drops below this recent low of about $2.1, then we can expect the downtrend for ICP that we've seen in the last couple of years to continue. In general, in my opinion, the crypto market is still in a bear market. I think that despite the recent very significant rally by Bitcoin from about 60k to over 80k, I think that in the long term, we will most likely see Bitcoin continue to heading down and most likely even breaking below 60k. I think that 2026 for the most part is probably going to be a bear market year. And I think that this recent rally by Bitcoin is most likely a counter trend rally. In the short term, in the next few weeks, it is possible for Bitcoin to continue rallying and maybe heading towards the mid 80Ks, maybe even all the way up to 90K. But regardless of whether we continue to go down from here right away, or if Bitcoin continues the rally first and only then continues to go down, I think that in the long term, it is most likely that Bitcoin will continue heading much lower. And when that does happen, altcoins are going to do absolutely horribly, at least most of them. ICP will most likely be with those altcoins as well. Of course, there can be some exceptions, and we have seen periods where ICP has moved without much correlation to Bitcoin. For example, back in October and November of 2025, we've seen ICP get a massive rally from less than $3 to over $8. And this is despite Bitcoin not doing that well back then. But for the most part, Bitcoin is still the king of the crypto market, and most coins are going to follow it with a pretty strong correlation. And when Bitcoin is in a bear market and we don't have an alt season, then most altcoins are going to perform far worse than Bitcoin. Again, it's not impossible that ICP will be one of those exceptions. As I've showed you before, it is in a local uptrend right now, but I think that it is still a lot more likely that it will not outperform Bitcoin, and it will most likely do significantly worse than Bitcoin. And in the next few months, since I'm expecting Bitcoin to go lower than 60k and it doing much worse, I think that ICP will probably do a lot worse as well and head all the way down to the trend line as we discussed earlier. And then from there, we can actually see ICP struggling for a very long time after Bitcoin stops with the bear market and starts the bull market and actually starts rallying. We could still see ICP struggling for a very long time with it being a pretty small market cap altcoin, for it to really get sustained rallies and start a long-term uptrend, we would need to see most of the crypto market doing a lot better. This is true for most altcoins really. We would need to see Bitcoin doing a lot better and potentially heading towards new all-time highs, as well as Ethereum following it. And right now, this is very far away from being the situation. Bitcoin is very far away from its all-time high, and I don't think that it will approach new all-time highs probably until 2027. So again, in the short term, ICP of course can get a rally, and it is very hard to predict what is going to happen in the short term. But I think that for the next few months, potentially even the next year or so, ICP is not going to do very well. That just seems to be the most likely scenario in my opinion. And in general, I'm not too optimistic about the altcoin market at the moment. I would first want to see Bitcoin and Ethereum doing a lot better, and at the very least being close to their all-time highs, probably even crossing into new all-time highs, for me to really consider being heavy into altcoins. If ICP does manage to close the weekly candle above, let's say $3 and cross this resistance area, then it could potentially rally all the way up to the next resistance area, which would be this one at the previous high of around $4. This is also a round number and a psychological level of resistance. So this could also be a nice rally for ICP. But beyond that, I don't really see it doing a lot better than that. After that, we have another resistance area at around $4.50. This has been support a couple of times in the past, in April and June of 2025, as well as resistance in January of this year. So there are definitely a lot of resistance areas for ICP to struggle with, and the overall trend is definitely a very clear downtrend in the long term. So the structure of ICP combined with my general outlook on the altcoin market right now is not very optimistic, and I think that it is very likely that ICP will perform very poorly in the next few months. Of course, none of what I said in this video is financial advice. If you enjoyed this video and you want more updates about ICP as well as other altcoins, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.